As we're reaching out to speakers, we're asking them to make us laugh and make us cry, but make us think, make us lean in and say, wow, play with our emotions and play with our minds, but get us to wake up and recognize the opportunity and the good stuff going around. So you're not going to hear a bunch of talks about people complaining about the ills of society. You can find that anyway. We have a lot of ills we need to deal with, but we're going to talk about things that are working for this day.
In addition to being a little like a ray of hope, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a little bit of a kick in the pants too, because quite frankly, I think we need that. I think we need a little hug. I think we need a little hope, and I think we need a little kick in the pants. And we'll just keep moving forward.
A sneak preview of what to expect this year at TEDx Detroit, which is coming up on September 30th. The TEDx series has always been known for inspiring innovation, and that has never been more true than this year. The event is going virtual, and organizers Terry Bean and Charlie Wollborg have had to adapt accordingly. You'll find out how they've done it and what's in store for the 12th annual TEDx Detroit. It's all coming up on Power Forward.
This is Power Forward. The primary purpose of this podcast series is to inform, entertain, and educate. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast series do not constitute legal or other professional advice, opinions, or endorsements of any kind.
All right, welcome back to Power Forward. Justin White alongside Mateen Cleaves. And Mateen, as always, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, Justin, I am flying high. I am soaring. It's all good.
Well, as good as you might be feeling today, I can promise you this. You're going to feel even better after the conversation we're about to have, because our guests today are dynamic personalities. I mean, I had a conversation with them leading up to the podcast recording, and I'm telling you, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. So, gentlemen, the bar is up here. Now you got to jump right over it. There.
I love it, man. Wait, listen, we're gamers. That's how it goes. If we got to jump higher between Charlie and I, if we both jump at the same time, Mateen might be able to slide a piece of paper beneath us. I'm not sure, man. Charlie, do you have a vertical? I mean, is it like an integer? Is that thick? Because mine's about 2.5 inches.
The only thing people describe with me and ups is like, oh, your food is up, or here's some more wings. I am gravity bound.
See, there we go. Coming out firing on all
off the
cylinders.
Planet. Yeah.
I love
not
it.
light on anybody's feet, not anybody's.
All right. Well, you got plenty of other attributes that we're going to get into. We are pleased to be joined by Charlie Wollborg and Terry Bean. They are organizers of TEDx Detroit, which is coming up on Wednesday, September 30th. It's a huge event. This is the 12th year of TEDx Detroit, and obviously this year it's the first time it will be completely virtual. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. We're really excited to have you here.
Go ahead, Charlie. You talk.
We're delighted to be here. Yeah.
You guys have known each other long enough.
Real one. Have we been in the Matrix the whole time?
Right.
Who knows?
I mean, I was just going to say, you guys have known each other, for a while now. You don't know how to dance? I mean, come on, stepping on each other's toes already. Come on, let's get the rhythm down.
That's right. It's weird, because funny, we normally do these things kind of in person. We can kick each other under the table, right? And I've been kicking the whole dang time, but it's no response. It's kind of cool.
It's a virtual world we are living in. And you guys talked about it. You've planned this event now twice. There's been so many twists and turns, I'm sure. You actually had Ford Field, home of the Detroit Lions, booked for the event all the way back in January. And I'm sure you were super excited about that. And then obviously the pandemic hits and you've got to adapt. What thoughts come to mind when you guys think about all the different obstacles that have been thrown your way in organizing this year's event?
It's good to have a great team, man. I know Mateen knows all about that, but having the right people in the right seats really helps you, whether you got to have somebody come off the bench and give somebody a breath, or whether you got to have somebody that's just driving down the lane. I'm out of basketball analogies right now. I promise that'll be the last one. Maybe not.
It's funny you talk about a team, Terry, because whether it's sports, business, or even like, most successful people I hear that speak and talk or I've ever had a chance to interact with, they always talk about their team. You know what I mean? You might see this one person out in the limelight, but you break down the layers and there's a team of people that make these events or make these people, and put them in a position where they can be successful.
One of our producers, his name is Sean Lee. He's a photographer by trade, but he really is this spark plug for the team. When you're around him, you feel better about yourself. You feel energized. So it's, I'm a bit of an energy vampire. I am happiest in front of an audience. So you guys are real people. How have you dealt with the isolation? Because I would think you feed off that energy too.
Yeah, I do. I'm big time people's person, but I just already got in my head, this is what it is. Okay. Now it's time to navigate and adapt. And this is what we're dealing with right now. Now, do I hope it get back to normal? Yes, indeed. Every day I do. But I just got in my mind, man, that, hey, this is the reality right now, and find ways to adapt and adjust with the times that we're in.
You can complain about the situation. It doesn't change the environment.
Exactly.
Excuses never change the past. They only delay the future. So
it's a great point. I mean, and you do your best to adapt, but everybody's got their moments, right? I mean, you get tired of talking to the people that, live in your house, because for a while that was all the social interaction that many of us had. It's been interesting, to say the least.
Sad. This morning, my cat clicked the unsubscribe button. So it was a rough morning.
That's when things are going south.
It's over.
But so Terry is always, Terry is the taskmaster. He's always driving the team. This year we're going to be ahead of the game. This year, coming out of the gate, we're going to announce the next TEDx at the last TEDx. And so in January, we had Ford Field lockdown. Like, this is going to be the biggest TEDx Detroit in our history. Maybe 10,000 people. We're going to get thousands of students there. And we are going to inspire Detroit. And this is going to be a revival like Detroit's never seen. And then
you think about the last decade, from where we were in 2010 to where we are in 2020 and where we could be in 2030, man, the narrative was right in itself. It was so exciting. We're just standing up there like on top of horses. Giddy up, let's go. And all of a sudden, bam,
okay. It is neat, kind of the cyclical nature of what it is. If you go back to 2009, when we first did the first TEDx Detroit, the narrative about Detroit was not good. If it wasn't burning, bleeding, or bankrupt, it was not on the news. And so TEDx really started as this lifeboat that, look, the big news is terrible, but there are these amazing stories that are happening. And so we got entrepreneurs and scientists and educators and media personalities just tell their stories. And it was really a life jacket for all these creators saying, look, don't give up. You can still do it. Tune out the narrative of the bad. There are 1,000 bad things happening a day and 1,000 good things happening a day. What are you going to focus on? Whatever you give the attention to is what's going to grow. And so I feel like TEDx evolved into this great celebration of all the cool things happening. And now we're back in where we do need a pick-me-up. We do need a lifeboat. And I think that's where we're headed with this year's event.
It's
like that. And
crazy how it comes full circle, isn't it?
It does. And I like the fact that you guys did that. I'm from a small community, Flint, Michigan, which is not known for good. There's a lot of, negativity flying around my city in itself. And I try to bring in, I have a free basketball camp, but the basketball is the draw. And once I get the kids in the gym or whatever, I like to bring in people like yourself and people from all over, successful people from so many different places from Flint, from the area, to know that there are successful people from this area. If you look at the media, they don't tell you that. And I tell the kids, you from a unique place. Your road is a little tougher than other kids, but there are people that have been successful from this area, and you can do the same thing. So don't get caught up to thinking that you don't have an outlet and you can't make it from some of these communities.
And that's such the thing, right? We need examples. If you're starting out right now, you can go out and get on your own path and go. But if you get out, go find somebody that's already ahead of you on that path and follow in their footsteps, life becomes smoother, easier, quicker. Do that. So it's great that you're bringing in examples of what kids can be, and we need more of that. And that's one of the reasons, that I'm still involved, is it's this picture of what is for everybody else. And oh, by the way, I can do it too.
I was just gonna, Flint has one of the best cultural centers in the state. The art museum, the science museum, the theater. What a great place to see a show. One of the best speakers we've ever had at TEDx Detroit was Flint's own David McGee, who just woke up the crowd with a great message. Flint has a lot of problems right now, but also a lot of shining sparks. It's indicative of everywhere in the country.
I just love the fact, that for you guys, this is not, just about bringing together speakers who obviously are about innovation, because that's, certainly a huge part of what the TEDx series is about. But like you said, really helping change the narrative of a city and inspiring this whole generation of young entrepreneurs. And so many of our listeners, are small business owners and entrepreneurs. When you guys kind of look back on all these years of the conferences and kind of think about all the inspiration that you've seen, what are the thoughts that are at the front of your mind?
I often think about the people that I met at TEDx Detroit and then where they are and what they're doing. So two people come immediately to mind as you were asking that question. One's a guy named James Fegan, and James and I got on and did an uncomfortable conversation right after the whole thing went down at the end of May. And we joined by a couple other people, Kari Turner, who was a TEDx speaker twice, and Sola Olaban. And it was just a phenomenal discussion. But James is one of those guys that's out there just leading the way and changing the economics here in the city of Detroit. And the other one is a young man that I met when he was 19 years old in 2012. Maybe 18, Delane Parnell. And Delane just went on to raise Series C for his esports company. He is absolutely winning the game. And we were just having a casual conversation at the back of the audience. And I was just so impressed because he was so young. And this was a little bit before we had a fully blown high school program. So the fact that he was there and interested and dialing in. Charlie and I got to spend a little bit of time with him early on, and he's just such a cool kid. And what he's doing now, he was such a cool kid, and what he's doing now is just so expansive, right? He really is winning the game.
It's every year there's a different talk that kind of resonates with me. I always say the beauty of TEDx is that it gives you things you wouldn't normally bump into. Creativity is all about cross-pollination. We become experts in our industry. We go to our conference in our industry. We read our industry trade publications. And TEDx cross-pollinates from architecture and sciences and medical and education and brings them all in. So last year, one of the talks that really resonated with me was from a baker. The other one was from a politician, and those wouldn't be talks that I would have heard any other time, but it was what I needed that year. Every time we talk about one of my favorite poets, who performed a few times at TEDx, I still tear up, and it's right brain and left brain. It's hard to put into words. There is so much of it that is a feeling. I always say you'll leave TEDx with ideas in your head and a fire in your belly rekindled and a spring in your step, but it's really true that it is something to think about and something to act on, because all the ideas don't do anything if we don't put them into action. So when you're on stage and you're sitting in the audience and you're seeing some of these young entrepreneurs that are either in the audience or on stage, and you're just down here, so like, oh gosh, I started doing this at 13. I need to get my butt right.
Wow. And let me dive in here because, just my short interaction with you guys, man, I know it when I see it, and you guys care, man. You guys care. Now I know, some people, public speak, they do it to make money, and they, ain't no telling the reasons. To me, it just seems like you guys really care on impacting our young generation or people as a whole, man. So, am I off on that, or is right the reason why you guys are in this?
I use the term selfish altruism all the time. Like our friend Benji, he always gives us the quote.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Kennedy quote.
Terry and our entrepreneurs, if Detroit's economic ecosystem isn't doing well, neither are we. So yes, we want everyone to do well, because when everyone's doing well, we do well. There's not a finite amount of success out there. So a rising tide lifts all ship.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Terry.
I'm a big fan of saying the better we all get at networking, the better all of our networking gets, right? I spend most of my time helping people get connected, but it's true, right? The better we get at learning, the better all of our learning gets. The better we get at helping, the better all of our helping gets. The better we get at serving, like right behind your head on the flyer, Mateen. All the better all of our serving gets, man. And if you looked at the old Motor City Connect site, it had 2 words, and those 2 words were better together. And you're seeing that phrase showing up more and more and more and more. It's like the idea of purpose is showing up, which is great. Charlie and I just happen to be on that train a little earlier than most.
And you guys both, you're both creatives at heart. You're both, entrepreneurs in your own right. So, when you look at all the different speakers you've had, and you, Charlie, you hit on this a little while ago, talking about creativity is about cross-pollination. How important do you think it is for people out there to really go and learn from people in completely different industries? Like you said, and kind of not just stay in your lane and read, trade publications from what it is you do. In your experience, personally, how valuable have some of those experiences been?
Do you want to take the story? So I think it's, we go back to Covey, sharpen the saw. So often when we take a break from our work, we stay at the computer and then we'll go to social media and we get into the rage machine instead of feeding ourselves. So I think the best thing a creative can do when you need a break from your work is get outside, go for a walk, put your headphones on and get a TED Talk in. Have someone encourage you for 15 minutes. Get away from the keyboard and get new ideas in your head. You have to change your physiology and you have to change your inputs. Because if you're just feeding, if you're sitting at the desk eating junk and then reading junk on social media, you're going to be putting out junk in the game.
I like that. And Charlie used to talk about this all the time as a marketing guy, as a creative guy that he is. He would go in and he'd pitch clients about, well, no, yeah, you're right. I don't work in this space, but you don't want me working in this space because then I'll produce the same crap that everybody that works in this space produces. I'm going to bring fresh ideas, new information, a whole fresh view of this. And it clicks, right? It just makes all kinds of sense. So I love the idea of, cross-pollinating and bringing in different sensory overloads. And, we always talk about TEDx being like taffy for your brain, right? Because there's just so much of this roller coaster ride that you're just all strung out by the time it's all done. Strung out in the most positive way possible, of course.
And Terry, let me ask you, because Terry, you talked a little bit earlier about, one of your big things is networking. Okay, and we had a young man on our show, and he was talking about, when he first started, he didn't network with other public speakers or motivational speakers because he made it all a competition. So he didn't really network with those guys. And he said when he really started to take off in public speaking or motivational speakers, when he started to network. So can you just talk a little bit more about how important networking is?
I just keep thinking of Adam. We'll talk about whether that was him later. Here's what I'll tell you for sure, right? and this is a mistake most young business professionals make. The people who are most likely to be able to refer you are the people who do the same thing you do, because they're going after the same clients you are and may be booked when you're not. Right? It's super duper simple, makes a ton of sense. They're not competitors, there's collaborators, right? We always talk about the idea of comparation or co-opetition. You know, it's so very, very important to connect with these people. You can learn from them. You can learn what mistakes not to make from them too, right? But there's all these opportunities. And Charlie said it earlier, we really do live in an abundant world. If you take that mindset with you, there's plenty enough for everybody.
I love it. The mindset of abundance. It's something we've talked about before, Mateen, on this show. You know, that there's enough out there for everybody. And like you said, don't look at it as a competition. Look at it more as a collaboration. Or you had some made up word, Terry, which I liked. I'm gonna have to go look that up after the show here.
I'll send you a link to all my made up words.
Yeah, your entire dictionary. That'd be great. Well, so let's
ask Terry about his license plate someday. Probably not right from the podcast, but it's a good story.
This is a family show. We try to keep it that way at least. So let's talk about this year's event. You know, because like you guys said, Ford Field is booked back in January. Then you gotta take a different path with it. And now the event's coming up. So how have you guys kind of put the whole thing together? Because obviously you have high expectations for yourselves because you've been doing this for a long time now. So as the event draws near, what are the emotions, I guess, for both of you?
I think one of the things that drives creativity is constraints. It's amazing when you put an obstacle in front of us, we figure out how to get over it. And Terry, for years, has tried to get one speaker, and he can never fly in. So this year, all that changed. Terry, give us the story.
Oh, man, I'm a Simpsons nut, right? Like the amount of stuff that I've missed on Sundays at night because I had to watch The Simpsons is like 25 years of stuff, man. But years back, 2013 or so, one of our board members said, "Hey, did you know Al Jean graduated from Harrison High School in Farmington?" And I knew who Al Jean was. He is the executive producer and showrunner for The Simpsons. And he's been with the show so long that he named episode 1, right? So he's been there the whole time. So I've been asking. I tweet him. We exchange some messages. Every year, we're doing a table read. Every year, I can't make it that day. Because we always do it in the middle of the week. And every year, I'm like, well, can I ask you again next year? And he's always said yes. And so this year, I tweeted, "Hey, Al, it's that time." I'd love to. I didn't even have to ask. And I was like, wait, what? Did you understand the question? Hold on a second. I was super excited for a minute. Needless to say, I'm really giddy about it.
and it's almost like the blessing in disguise because he can do it virtually.
That's right.
So it's a whole lot easier. So little did you know, you lose Ford Field, but you gain the white whale, if you will, in Al Jean.
It was pretty amazing, man. I'm still a little high off of it, and it's been like a month now.
Oh man, that's cool. Fantastic. That's fantastic. And it's funny, going through this pandemic it sucks. We all. It's just, I don't know if it's a good word for it, but it is situations. You can kind of help it better. I would say. Even like it's a lot of people I know, some successful people, right? And a lot of times you're getting the voicemails or you're leaving a message. Man, when this pandemic hit, they were picking the phone up. Certain people that was calling right back. If you needed something so I hated that we went through this, but I was one of those people that took full advantage of people having to sit still and reaching out to some folks and getting some things done.
News from the outside.
That's it, man. My mantra on this whole thing is keep your chin up, keep your head down, and keep moving forward. Right? Mm-hmm. And I came up with that in March and have been using it ever since. That's all we can do right now.
That's right.
About it earlier about, you can only control so much. Like you were talking a bit ago, I just kept thinking serenity prayer, serenity prayer, serenity prayer. That's all we got, man. Control the controllables, my friend Phil would say.
And you guys are really looking to, convey that through the conference this year, right? I mean, you're not just looking at this as, a platform for, ideas and for innovators and for, business strategies and so on and so forth. You guys are really looking at this year's event as a purveyor of hope, because let's face it, we all need that right now.
Now, if you look at where TED originally comes from, TED was an acronym for technology, entertainment, and design, 3 fields that drive innovation across the economy. And so as we're reaching out to speakers, we're asking them to make us laugh and make us cry, but make us think, make us lean in and say, wow, play with our emotions and play with our minds, but get us to wake up and recognize the opportunity and the good stuff going around. So you're not going to hear a bunch of talks about people complaining about the ills of society. You can find that anywhere. We have a lot of ills we need to deal with, but we're going to talk about things that are working for this day.
Yeah, I would, in addition to being a little like a ray of hope, I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be a little bit of a kick in the pants too, because quite frankly, I think we need that. I think we need a little hug. I think we need a little hope, and I think we need a little kick in the pants, and we'll just keep moving forward.
Mateen, that sounds like a page out of your playbook right there.
Oh yeah, oh definitely, I love it. Yeah, you got to hit and come from different directions, man, and be that Army Swiss knife, man, and I love it, man. One thing I will say that you guys got me fired up. I'm tuning in. It's virtual. It's definitely a workout for me. So I'm excited, man, to get in there and listen to some of these speakers so I can get better.
Love it. And we're excited to have you figure out how to apply next year.
Yeah. Speaking of, Terry, the application process, obviously that changed too, right?
Yes. Yeah, we'll call that yes. Yeah, man. Yeah, in all sincerity, we actually did away with it this year. Yeah. And this is the first time. I think in 2009 we may not have had an application process. I think Charlie and I just went point, you. But after that, it's been a part of the excitement, part of the mystique, part of the overall opportunity was to apply to get on that stage. And as heartbreaking as it was to not go through that, the truncated sessions, they're all shorter, the different time, the shortness of time to prepare, all of it. It's just like, plus we have a list of 11 years worth of speakers that for various reasons. So
we get hundreds of applications every year. And, one of the most heart-wrenching things is to go through and say, gosh, this story doesn't make the cut, even though, so many, you could have a 7-day conference and have great talks all throughout. But one thing we talk about as we're curating the show is that it's a stew. And if we have the same ingredient again and again, even though this is such an inspiring story, we already have one person bringing that ingredient in. We need different stories to make TEDx work to be this inspiring cross-pollinating event. So it is really tough to tell people no. And there are people who it's been a no this year and we'll get you next year. And that's happening this year. So
tell our listeners, guys, more about the dynamic with the two of you. You guys go back a ways, how you first got hooked up with TEDx, how this became, your baby, so to speak, that you guys were both going to invest so much time into.
That's Charlie's baby, man. I just invest in Charlie.
You just changed the diapers?
Listen, man, I'm like that far away father that took off for a little while but keeps popping in. Maybe makes a check every now and again. No, man. No, it's his love for this that just continually makes me smile. So go ahead, man. Tell him.
So Terry and I did a lot of public speaking. We would kind of do tag team, finish each other's sentences, things on the speaking circuit. We did a lot of social media training, a lot of marketing training. And, as a professional speaker, TED was always, you'd watch a TED talk to learn from the best. And you could never get into a TED conference. It was $10,000 a ticket. They had a waiting list. You had to apply to get in. So when they announced the TEDx program to kind of expand TED to cities, I emailed in and said, oh, this sounds great. I'd love to help with the Detroit show. And they emailed back and said, oh, great. Okay, you're in. I'm like, great. Who's in charge? And they said, well, you are. And I said, well, who's on the team? And they're like, you are. So I called Terry in a panic, like, what do we do? And Mr. Network, again, this flips open. In the old days, they were Rolodex. This person's a speaker.
A little black book.
Help organize. This person's got a room. And, Terry is the Felix and the magic bag of tricks. He's always got the contacts you need to make it happen. So
now you guys, I mean, it's been a while. You guys have been doing this for a while now, right?
Oh,
I mean, do you guys ever like sit back and just like, wow, look what we've built, and have those ones? Because I know you always grind, and I get that part. But do you guys ever get a chance to sit back and just, look at it, interact with each other like, well, damn, man, look at this.
Every year in the third, so we do 3 sessions throughout the day. Usually the third section is the first time I'll see Terry in the day. I'm like, it's pretty cool. But we have an incredible team. Our board's a dozen people that volunteer their time all year. And, Terry's just recruited specialists in every, we've got geeks, we've got artists, we've got organizers, we've got speaker coaches and volunteer wranglers that all put this together. So the heavy lifting the day of is done by the team. And, we have 100 volunteers at the event. So it's, Terry and I are out front a lot of the times, but this doesn't happen without just the incredible team that we've recruited over the last 12 years.
That's for sure. Yeah, to the person, every one of them's amazing. It's funny. We're about a week away in the timeline from when I normally say to my wife, "Don't let me do this again next year. Don't let me. I'm not doing it. I'm out." And then about an hour and a half after Charlie was talking about where we meet at the third session, we're normally sitting and having a cocktail somewhere after the show. And it's in that moment, and I'm sitting around and I'm looking, and we're at a happy hour with a bunch of people buzzing around being all people-y. All right, let's start next year.
There is. You get the tingles, when you're at, I cry at every year's show during some talk or some performance. It just gets you because it is input overload, and it's wonderful and makes you keep going.
Just when I thought I was out, they sucked me back in.
So easy.
You know what that reminds me of? When I used to run marathons, I'd get to the end, and obviously my body is completely just physically broken. And I'd say to my wife, I'm done. Don't let me do this again. I'm not doing another one. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. A couple days later, after I can, walk again, I start looking at the calendar. Okay, what's my next one going to be? You just, you get addicted to it. You do. If it's something that you're really passionate about, no matter how much of a toll it may take on you, physically, emotionally, or mentally, you want to keep doing it. But when you guys were talking a little bit, Charlie, you were talking about, some of the experiences that you guys both have in common. The fact that you're both, public speakers, comfortable being on stage, comfortable talking to groups of people. So I want to get both of your takes on this, because I think this will be interesting for our listeners. What in your mind makes a great, not good, a great public speaker / presenter?
So I think there are 3 things that you need to really knock it out. As a speaker, if you're not excited about what you're talking about, if you don't believe in it, why the hell would anyone else? So you are a passion transference device. That's your first job as the speaker, to bring things to life, to breathe life into an idea. So you need that passion. You need incredible visuals. I always say your slides are the Flavor Flav of your presentation. You're Chuck D. You are out there as the MC. Your visuals are, standing behind you saying, "Yeah, what he said." That's a little more Michael.
Is that your?
Yeah,
is that your Flavor Flav impersonation? No, that was horrible.
I have no Flavor Flav.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And then you have to have the idea. So what, entertain us, make us laugh. I always like to say, learning is so much easier when you're laughing. So Terry and I always trying to inject a little humor, usually successfully.
Low bar. business, no bar.
Right, so if you have an idea, if you have great visuals and great passion, you can convince someone of what you're trying to talk about. Terry, what would you add?
So I have three kind of bars too, right? I use the word inspiragitaining all the time. So mine are, you've got to be inspiring. Yeah, I love it.
That dictionary is going to come in handy after we record this.
It's called Beanisms. It's really easy. Inspirational, right? You gotta bring something from deep inside of you and be able to place it deep inside of them. Educational, they got to learn, right? They've got to learn something. Otherwise, why are you there? And then to Charlie's point, we learn better laughing. So entertaining. It's gotta entertain. And Charlie talks about passion. I talk about energy. Charlie and I are very different. I can stand in a corner of a room facing a wall and a camera, and I can present the same way I could present if I was standing facing 1,000 people. It doesn't matter to me because I'm going to bring a pile of energy and share it. Charlie is a former rock star guy, gets up on stage, sucks some energy in from people, then channels it right back out to him, right? But he's got to have some, he's got to get some to give some. So it's in there. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters as long as at the end of the day, you're putting the energy in the people. How it starts doesn't matter, but it's got to get there. It's got to have that transference.
Oh, yeah.
If I could give one skill to every business presenter is please, for the love of everyone in your audience, never read a slide to them. Don't,
verbatim.
Separate your visuals from your speaker's notes. And never put a slide up that says, well, you can't see, but what this chart is communicating, you just said we couldn't see it. Why are you showing it? Break it down. Find new ways to visualize your information.
Oh, yeah, that's great advice. And I hope our listeners are really paying attention to that because I've been in some of those audiences when that has happened. Okay. Now, well, let me ask you guys this because public speaking probably is one of the most scariest things ever, for people, the average human being. So what advice would you have for someone, because I speak to leaders all the time and all of them said, well, I didn't want to get in leadership because I didn't want to have to speak in front of my team. And sometimes a team is only 10 people. So what advice would you have for some people that's just terrified of public speaking?
For me, it's all about the reps. It's the same as basketball.
Mm-hmm.
In fifth grade, when they threw the ball to me at the buzzer, I froze, And the first time on stage, the first play I was in, I was like, oh my gosh, there are people looking at us. And now that's, part of the game. So it's about getting the reps. So speak at your church, speak at your chamber of commerce, speak at your company, wherever you can volunteer to get in. Back before the pandemic, we would say, go to a PK night. PK night are little 5-minute speeches that you share with your one idea with people. It's like a mini TED Talk, or there's Ignite Talks. Go to an open mic night, but it's get in front of an audience.
I'm a fan of knowing your stuff, which obviously getting in front of the audience helps. But realistically, know your stuff to the point where you know it better than whoever you're talking to does, right? Because that breeds a level of confidence. If they can challenge me, but I got this, it's gonna be easier for you to communicate that message. And then to the earlier point, recognize that it is one of the greatest fears on the planet, right? People are talking about it being higher than spiders and higher than flying and higher than death, right? Like, you're more afraid to stand in front of people and talk, or just assume that you're already a fool and you don't have to worry about making a fool out of yourself, and it's no problem.
You know what? Don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, everybody loves someone who's self-deprecating, right? You can poke fun at yourself. That's always been one of my big things, no matter who I'm speaking to. And when you guys were talking about or when you were answering Mateen's question about, keys for people who may be afraid of public speaking, kind of got me thinking, it's kind of similar when it comes to somebody who's in sales, right? When you're trying to pitch a client, or maybe you're trying to, gain new business. It seems like some of those same strategies apply to that extent as well, right?
It's so fashionable in our culture to say, I give zero blank, or zero blanks given. And I think the secret is the exact opposite. You've got to give a fight. You should never phone it in unless you're ordering pizza, and then you better order enough for all of us. But you've got to show up. You've got to care. Like, why would anyone want to hear you if you don't care about what you're talking about?
That's amazing, and a really good point.
It is. That's facts. Yeah, if you don't care, if it ain't important to you, why should it be important to me?
Right. Yeah, I'm never going to let something be more important to me than it is to you if it's your thing. Give me a break. Why would I do that?
My nightmare scenario is always someone leaves a talk that Terry and I give and say, oh, that could have been an email. We are hoping that you're getting information, as Terry said. We've got information to share, but we are going to try and bring it to life. And so you walk back to your office with like, gosh, that was a great hour.
By the way, Charlie, sorry, Terry. I think Charlie, Michael Jordan's got that famous quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think your quote should be, you should never phone it in unless you're ordering pizza. That should be yours. Trademark it right now.
So the way I usually phrase it is, life is like the hokey pokey. You got to put your whole self in. If you really want to turn it around, put your whole self in.
I was going to ask you guys, tell people out there who are interested in the event. Like I said, it's coming up on September 30th. It's a Wednesday. Tell the people out there what they should know if they're interested in TEDx Detroit this year.
Starters, go find us on the Facebook page. That's where the information seems to get out the quickest. We're conveniently hidden there at TEDx Detroit. If you don't like that, you could go find us on Instagram, TEDx Detroit, or LinkedIn, TEDx Detroit, or Twitter, TEDx Detroit. Now, if you don't like any of those options, you can just go to the website, TEDxDetroit.com, right? And then you can register and do all the fun stuff. Actually, what I'm most excited about this year, this virtual thing, and we're not done, and I hope we're not telling tales out of school because I think it's going to be awesome. But we've got this great partnership where we're putting this little networking platform together, and we're going to allow for kind of the same synchronicities, as it were, right? When all of a sudden you walk into somebody that you weren't expecting to see, we're going to allow for that digitally. And I am, hopefully before this goes out, I'll be able to share, and you can write it in the show notes who we're working with, but I'm keeping that secret in case something goes totally broken. Because
I'm delighted that, normally this is a pretty expensive event to attend. It's $75 to $100 to attend. And thanks to the good folks at United Shore, it's free this year. In 12 years, we've never had a free show. And that sounds different when you say it as a free show. But I'm really excited that now, there's no barrier to getting these ideas, to getting pumped up, to finding new ways you can move your life forward, your business forward, thanks to United Shore. So that is anytime we can amplify the ideas worth spreading, that's a good thing.
Amazing.
Well, we're glad to be on board. I know that, we're all about innovation and getting better. And we know that this year's event, although it'll look a little bit different, it's going to be great. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to join us on the podcast. And hey, continued success. Good luck. I know you don't need it. I look forward, by the way, Terry, to hearing the story this year of how that conversation with your wife goes after the event, since you won't be running around an arena or a conference center or whatever the case may be. I look forward to hearing how that one goes this year.
Me too, man. I'm sure she's counting down the days. Aren't you normally complaining about this by now?
Good stuff, guys. Charlie Wollborg and Terry Bean of TEDx Detroit. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe out there. Wear a mask. Let's beat this thing.
To make sure you never miss an episode of Power Forward, subscribe wherever you find your podcasts and leave us a review. And look for another new episode coming your way 2 weeks from now, featuring more inspirational stories of success. I'm Justin White. We'll see you next time on Power Forward.